Great power systems are not about the powers themselves, but about where it comes from. And no, I don't mean mana, cursed energy, or ki. I mean how characters actually obtain power. Because the way a character gets power changes everything. And once I realized that, I started seeing a pattern. Turns out, all power systems can be broken down into 4 types. And when I say power system, I don't just mean magic. I'm talking about any way characters gain power. That includes martial arts in Baki or Hajime no Ippo. It even includes weird stuff like Blue Lock or even real life. If there's a way to get stronger, more influential, or more dangerous, that's a power system. And depending on the kind you build, you end up with a different world, a different story, and a completely different character arc. Now, maybe your story won't fit the first type I'm about to cover, but stick around and hear me out. Because I'm about to drop the secret sauce at the end, which separates the good power systems from the great ones. Now imagine 2 sorcerers. One can barely lift a stone with his mind, and even then only with the help of 5 other guys who have the exact same power. Wonder where I got that from. Now the second sorcerer? He is a funny tattooed man who can blow up cities and split man-sized Kit Kats perfectly in half for shits and giggles. Now imagine these 2 fighting one-on-one. Obviously that's unfair, but that's the whole point. This is what I call the fracture system. A world where power is completely unbalanced. The characters are born with wildly different abilities and balancing is yeeted out the window. Think stuff like Jujutsu Kaisen, Invincible, The Boys, solo leveling, hell even redo of Healer. You don't earn power in these worlds. You're either born lucky or you get annihilated. The fracture system means the power gaps between characters are often massive. Just think of most fights in Jujutsu Kaisen, bro.
Creating 1 bullet a day is my maximum. I should never do that with my bare hands.
She caught the bullet?
Meanwhile, another guy can literally give you AIDS if his pinky so much as brushes past you. Do you think that's a fair matchup? Of course not, but that's not a problem at all. In fact, I'd argue that that's what made JJK so damn peak, because those massive power gaps spark so much conflict. You can have scenes like Infinity War's Planet Titan fight. A bunch of literal mutants, a half-god, 2 of Earth's strongest heroes and an insect guy, all fighting a big purple dude. And they got absolutely manhandled. And it makes for some satisfying payoffs when an overpowered villain is finally taken down with team effort. It kinda feels like beating a boss in a video game with your homies. But unlike Minecraft, characters don't just respawn at their old checkpoint. Unless you're this guy. So it makes for absolutely soul-crushing defeats. Like, you watch the coolest team combo ever on Thanos, only for it to end like this.
All that for a drop of blood.
So, if you're writing this kind of power system, make sure you incorporate a lot of jumpings. Because even back in Ooga Booga days, humans ganged up to beat the shit out of the powerhouses in their world. But when the powerhouse is actually on the side of good, the tides completely shift.
Cursed spirits have been growing stronger because of him. Satoru Gojo. The same as when an insurmountable track and field record was suddenly broken. The balance of the world changed when Satoru Gojo was born.
I call characters like Gojo, All Might and Escanor Rays of Light. These are the characters who hard carry their entire verse and act as literal beacons. Just know that putting these rays of light on timeout makes for great conflict opportunities in your plot. I mean, you don't have to do it, but like MHA retired All Might, Escanor got killed off in 7 Deadly Sins, and Gojo, yeah, he got sealed. Let's just go with sealed. But moving on from these rays of light, in stories with fracture systems, you usually have around 10 characters at the absolute pinnacle of their world, and everyone else is crushed like ants beneath them. Sometimes they're used as living weapons against their will. Sometimes they're symbols of peace. Sometimes symbols of fear. And sometimes they're just empty. But almost always, they shape the worlds in massive ways. When writing this kind of power system, your main cast should sit somewhere near the pinnacle of power. But here's the secret sauce. Show the weak. That's why people love characters like Miwa or Kobeni. They don't win, but they survive, barely. Beyond that, clashes between the strongest shouldn't just be flashy. Show how they rip the surroundings to shreds, and how badly they tear apart the lives of the normies. This is one thing you can't screw up in fracture systems. Always show consequences on the bystanders when the powerhouses clash. When titans collide, don't pull the "lucky we evacuated" BS. This is exactly why the audience gets to the edge of their seat when Sukuna or Homelander decide to fight near a fully jam-packed home for the elderly. And you can take it one step further. Show strong characters terrified of someone even stronger. When the strongest in a world all start shaking at the mention of one name, you know things are about to go down when that character finally shows up. It's insane when that special grade curse everyone in Jujutsu High struggled against for 2 episodes straight gets one-shotted by Gojo Satoru. Or even the 2 fights where Jogo just got absolutely manhandled. Remember, this dude can one-shot first grade sorcerers, bro. And then there's Toji. His fights are just him completely violating his enemies. But the scene that really takes the cake for me is this one. But beyond all the hype, Fracture Systems create some insanely interesting character arcs. You could write the strongest having an identity crisis like Gojo or Geto, or being careless like Toji, or having a massive god complex like Homelander. And these worlds usually have a main character who's gifted with some overpowered or unorthodox ability. Just don't screw up what made their powers unorthodox in the first place. Don't pull a My Hero Academia and give your MC 9 powers, or pull a Black Clover and turn him into literal Satan. So yeah, that's the Fracture System. Unstable, chaotic, filled with godlike beings. But hey, if you don't want your characters turning into Jesus by shoving fingers down their throats, eating hair, or getting stabbed with a magic dumpster arrow, I'm guessing you want balance? And what better way to write balance than by giving every character the same starting power output? Like everyone begins at base level. So power is actually earned through training, smarts, experience, and sacrifice. This is the Ascent system. Think of stories like Avatar, Hunter x Hunter, fullmetal alchemist. In these stories, everyone can increase their power if they train. But even though these worlds give everyone access to power, not everyone actually becomes strong. That depends on 3 things: how hard you train, how smart you are, or how ethically questionable you're willing to get. Sometimes characters can't increase their raw output, but they get smarter at using what they've got, like in Fullmetal Alchemist. And in other times, they can increase their power output, like Chakra in Naruto. But unlike Fracture Systems, where some random middle school kid gets a building-sized SCP as a bodyguard, in Ascent Systems, power is something you grind for. When writing this power system, be sure to include spiritual, emotional, and physical training for power. Like with Aang, who did all 3. Usually the strongest in this verse get there with 4 methods. First, they're naturally gifted with faster power growth, or they're just insanely smart, like Toph. Second, they're old as hell with decades of experience, skill, and knowledge under the belt. Think Isaac Netero or Kenjaku from Jujutsu Kaisen. Third, they're part of an organization or government trained to be strong through pure discipline, like the Tai Li. And finally, there's the ones who got strong through forbidden or downright unethical methods, like Hama from Avatar, who became a bloodbender. Or again, Sukuna and Kenjaku from Jujutsu Kaisen. Stories with this system usually have wars going on and the civilians being at the mercy of the elite soldiers. Usually they are technologically advanced too. There are also pursuits of knowledge about the power system going on. As a writer, I ask you to hide knowledge about the system not just from the reader, but from the actual world too. The tides of war should turn with whoever learns some key info about the power system before the other. You can see this done in Atla after the Allies learnt about the Death Star blueprint. Oops, wrong show. When they learned about the solar eclipse stopping firebending, the tides of war shifted in their favor for the first time. That's how you use hidden knowledge as a plot device. And as for plot lines, these worlds are perfect for arcs about duty versus love, the pursuit of honor, and epic redemption arcs, bro. They're also amazing for heartbreaking betrayals and massive plot twists. This is why I freaking love ascent systems. They give you training arcs with tense ass stakes, where every single drop of sweat adds weight to the final fight. So yeah, training arcs. Go absolutely ham on those. Just remember to include all 3 types of training. But here's the thing, dude. Like I said earlier, power systems can be more abstract. They don't necessarily have to come from the user themselves. Sometimes, the power comes from a completely different entity or object. This is my third type, the conduit system. This system is unique because it relies on an outside source. That source could be a person, creature, or object that grants power. For convenience, let's just call these conduits. The worlds with this system are in a constant pursuit of stronger and stronger conduits. Stories like Cyberpunk Edgerunners, Arcane, and Game of Thrones are great examples of these worlds. In these worlds, the richer you are, the stronger you are. The constant innovation of better and better conduits also shift the world's tides constantly. This makes for some of the most intricate world building and allows for a very dynamic feeling world. One common plotline here is the introduction of a powerful new conduit that multiple forces hunt for. We see this in season 1 of Arcane with the technological back and forth between Zon and Piltover. And just like how the militaries oppress people in ascent systems, here it's the corpus scum. Screw Arasaka. Like in Cyberpunk's world, ruled entirely by corporate rats, the best, most elite cyberware is only affordable by the rich who sold their souls. Everyone else has to deal with faulty cyberware and ripper dogs from Ohio.
Cutting her a really shitty deal, Doc. Faceplate's got a busted eyelid retractor.
Hey, my patient is fully aware of her impending upgrade's drawbacks. Consider the alternative. No eyelid at all, no faceplate to speak of.
While the corpos enjoy life, the poor are left to clean up their shit. Cyberpunk's world is so intricately detailed with so much thought put into it. In this world, gaining strength essentially means gaining money. And often, characters have to sell their soul to the ruling demons in suits to achieve ultimate power, or they become one of them. Plots about rebels or anarchists trying to destroy the corporates go hard in these stories. But be warned, these rarely end well. After all, corpos are like hydras. Cut off one head and another takes its place. To quote Cyberpunk, people can try to burn Night City to the ground, but in the end, they are the ones who get burned. And the typical shonen archetype of wanting to be the best in the world is more for the ascent system. Here, a goal like that often leads to a negative character arc. I mean, Saburo Arasaka is basically the Hokage of Cyberpunk. And that man has committed acts so vile they'd get me demonetized just for mentioning them. So if ascent is about the climb, conduit is about the transaction. You either die a hero or chrome up high enough to see yourself become a villain. But you see, you can't just always buy your way to power. Sometimes you need to lose something far worse, far more painful. In the revenant system, you have to give to receive. I'm talking power systems like Chainsaw Man, Cyberpunk Edgerunners, fullmetal alchemist, and Jujutsu Kaisen. Giving to receive can mean a lot of things. It could be giving a part of your body to the devil for temporary assistance like devil contracts in Chainsaw Man, or binding vows in JJK where you literally lose something to gain something. It could also mean damage to your body whenever you use abilities, like Cyberpunk's implants. But before we talk about the system's narrative potential, the revenant system is the most spammed system in fiction. And I just gotta say bro, that typical, oh my power drains stamina, or every time I punch at full power my arm hurts, that's just pure narrative bullshit. To make a truly captivating revenant system, Your powers need to hinder the user in meaningful ways. Your characters can't just conveniently run out of mana at the end of a fight and collapse. And they definitely can't just punch through the pain of a fractured arm. Good revenant systems are brutal, unfair, and messy. Right fights where a character gives it their all, gives everything up, only to get one-shotted anyway.
Because I didn't want to die. New shadow style! Put in everything. Everything I've experienced. And everything I will. Even if it means I'll never swing a sword again! Quick draw!
Just remember, don't pull some power of friendship BS. The strongest in these worlds are constantly shifting, because here, the flames that burn the brightest die first, and the most batshit crazy characters end up reaching the peak.
All I want to hear are your answers. How'd you feel about your comrades dying?
It's whatever.
I thought, oh, they're all dead now.
Do either of you want revenge?
That ain't my scene. Shit's super depressing.
Verily.
Humans or devils? Which side are you on?
The side that's gonna take the best care of me.
The one that's winning.
Know what you just got? Perfect scores.
And stories in these worlds often deal with mortality and deep philosophies and are often extremely dark. Be sure to focus on how fragile lives are and include unexpected and quick deaths, because in this world you're either strong and suffering or weak and peaceful. And Cyberpunk is also my favorite revenant system because the theme of both the game and anime is about the fragility of lives.
Don't make a name for yourself as a cyberpunk by how you live. Make a name by how you die. It's not the life or the end you deserve.
What's that even mean?
But here's the thing, man. Stories aren't one-dimensional. Your plot can't just follow one set of rules unless you're trying to write a simple story like Baki. Every story and every storyteller is unique. And no matter how many archetypes I break down here, you can't box every power system into just one category. As you might have noticed, a lot of your favorite power systems are actually quite confusing. Like, is Cyberpunk a conduit system because of cyberware being really expensive? Or revenant because of the mental cost? It's pretty evident that JJK is a fracture system, but what about binding vows where you sacrifice stuff? Isn't that revenant? And curse tools or Sukuna fingers? Those are basically conduits. So what is JJK? Conduit? Revenant? Or fracture? Well, it's all three. And that, my guy, is why I told you to watch till the end. Because what makes a truly outstanding power system isn't purity, it's mixing and matching. Well, sorta. Don't just overbloat your power systems though. Like, just because you can mix all four doesn't mean you should. Only build expansive, complex systems if you plan to tackle deep, multi-layered themes. Choose one main type, then sprinkle in a second or third for nuance. Think of it like mixing a cocktail. You can have it be 90% fracture and a few dashes of conduit and revenant like JJK. And so your story will be primarily about revenant world problems. Or you could make a perfectly balanced cocktail like One Piece. Want corporate hellscapes and tragic sacrifices? Mix conduit and revenant. You want hype shonen arcs with rivalries and team fights? Mix fracture and ascent, which is, well, almost every shonen ever. Just remember, the more complex your power system, the longer and more complex your story will have to be. I mean, think of this framework as just guidelines. At the end of the day, it's your power system. Go ham. But don't click off yet, my guy. This isn't the outro. Because I'm not done. I've got deep dive videos planned for each power system type, where I'll show you exactly how to write them well, with examples, frameworks and breakdowns. And to end the series, I'm making a final tie-in video on how to mix these systems believably. Subscribe to get notified when I drop them. With that, it's me, Strike, peacing out.